I know it's summer vacation, and it doesn't seem like there's ever a vacation anymore. It's always nuts out there, but it's amazing to see you guys as involved as you are, watching what's going on, being vocal, having that next generation in there is so fundamentally important. So I just love seeing you guys out there. So thank you for all of that. It really makes a big difference, and was obviously huge last November.
Yeah, and the theme of what we're talking about is fulfilling the mandate, especially for the younger voters in this audience. Last week, the One Big Beautiful Bill was finally passed and signed into law. And one of the components of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the most important, is fully funding ICE, fully funding the deportation effort. What would your perspective be? Your father has said no amnesty under any circumstances whatsoever. Talk about the need for mass deportations and how we will not put up with any amnesty whatsoever.
Listen, it's so fundamentally critical. I mean, it was really the #1 issue we all campaigned on. We see what it did to so much of America, what it did to so many communities, and honestly, what it did to so many of the low-income communities in this country, where people were just sweeping those jobs, and ultimately everyone's potential American dream was getting wiped away. And so the Big Beautiful Bill, the funding of the wall, the funding of ICE, is so fundamentally important to actually getting these things done, right? We saw what we could do about just the border itself, but now you have 20 million people probably. I imagine they don't even know, just getting in there, they're getting all the benefits, the benefits that you guys pay for yourselves, that your parents probably paid for all of you guys. They get that with no contribution to the system, and that was by design under the Biden administration. So to have the funding to start the mass deportations, but more importantly, the parts of the bill that literally cut off all of the freebies that were just draining our coffers, but more importantly, were a calling card to the rest of the world. Be like, come here, we'll give you everything. The health care that you got gets diluted because you get to pay for thousands of others, millions of others, tens of millions of others, who will likely never even pay into the system. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in any other country, and there's a reason no other country was doing it. So, that was a fundamental aspect of the Big Beautiful Bill, to now actually have the funding to do this. And it was sort of amazing to me how much even reluctance there was from so many, allegedly on our side. It was, well, it's just controversial. You're gonna have to deport someone. Listen, there's gonna be good people that this happens to too, but there are millions of criminals, and this is Joe Biden's ICE. I mean, when I saw the statistics, I literally couldn't believe that a civilization could survive when our Western values, our culture, the civilization itself, when they literally admitted, and this is Biden ICE stats, so this is probably diluted a lot, but 600,000 criminals, 13,000 murderers. I mean, think about that. 13,000 murderers were let into the country. They knew they were murderers, and they let them into the country. 16,000 rapists. Okay, add those together. You got what, 30,000, let's call it? 30,000 murderers and rapists. There's about 4,000 counties in America. Imagine you spread them out, evenly throughout that. Yeah, we'll throw 7 murderers or rapists into every county in America. How's that going to work? Wait, how?
Blake and Riley. And the end game is Rachel Moore.
but by chance it sort of happened almost. I mean, it'll be a year ago in 2 days. I was with her on July 13th when my father was shot, and I got the unusual call from my daughter that morning saying, "Hey, I want to go fishing," which, you know, if you have a teenage daughter, you guys are teenage daughters or so, yeah, you're not often calling dad to go do something. So when you call dad, she's nodding, she's like, yep. When you call dad, he's gonna do it, right? It doesn't matter. So it wasn't even the perfect day. I was like, yep, I'm gonna go get bait, we're gonna go deal with it, we're gonna go fishing. And, you know, we were out probably 13, 14 miles offshore, having a great day, catching fish, and we got the call. And I picked up my phone, and it's like, your dad's been shot. I'm like, and? Well, we don't know anything. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. There's calls that are good and bad. That's only a call that has degrees of bad, right? And we didn't know anything, and we're frantically kind of calling. I guess the only thing that they did right that day was shut down other communications. And so I think we set the sea speed record from offshore into Jupiter, where we live, and finally we're able to get my dad on the phone, and it was sort of a harrowing thing. By then we had seen some of the videos of him coming back up with the sort of fight, and I just got on the phone. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not usually at a loss for words, but that was one of those where I was like, I got nothing, but I was like, that's the most badass thing I've ever seen. I was like, I'm not sure if it's like tactically the most intelligent thing I've ever seen either. Yeah, just stand up again. What could go wrong? So I was like, but it was this sort of somber moment, and finally it was just, again, it got awkward enough. I was like, okay, so we got to ask the most important question, which is, how's the hair? And he gave me the, Don, the hair is fine. It's a little bloody. There was a lot of blood, Don. But the hair is fine. It'll be good. Gonna have to wash it. And it sort of broke the ice, and I'm not gonna say it got normal again, but it normalized the situation. And my daughter was with me, and Kai has probably spent more time with my dad one-on-one than I have, and I'm a lot older than her, largely because of golf, and she's like his golf buddy, and she plays with him every weekend when he was around, and that was all the time. And she called me that next morning, and she's like, you know what, I want to speak at the RNC. It wasn't, and to be clear, it's my daughter, so it wasn't exactly I want to, like it wasn't a question, it was like I'm going to. And I'm just like, I guess I'll bump some governor, like just,
And you did.
Well, I didn't do anything. I called my dad. This was like a 6 o'clock in the morning call. He picks up on the first ring. I'm like, hey, you doing good? By the way, Kai wants to speak at the RNC. And he just goes, whoa. Well, listen, when you do this every day, by the way, we've seen guys that do this every day and still blow that, right? When there's 40,000 people and you're in a stadium and there's 10 million, 20 million people watching on television, and you've never given a speech in your life, that is not easy. It's hard for most people, again, who do it. It's like they're used to a small crowd, and that's easy. It's a lot of pressure. And he's just like, that's a big one. That could go wrong really quickly, and we understand how bad that can go. But he just thought about it for a second. He goes, you know what? That kid's a winner. She'll do great. Like, that was it. Like, congratulations. She'll open for you, and like, we'll bump someone and make it happen. And she's done a pretty good job since then. So, yeah, she's amazing.
So then, and President Trump deserves so much credit, making sure men are not going to be in female sports,
yeah,
which is the kind of connection. So she's a great golfer. How do you interpret how the Democrat Party continually embracing this men and female sports issue? What is their reluctance to just moderate on this issue?
You know what? I love it. I think it's such a top issue, especially for like a lot of the demographics that, men sort of understand it intrinsically. I think, a lot of soccer moms around America sort of, their entire currency, was virtue signaling, right? And like they latched onto this thing. And I think it was one of the guys from Daily Wire actually gave me credit a couple months ago. They were like, wow, Don Jr. was on this issue in 2017, because before it was really a thing, you'd see it, like some dude would win a high school girls like track championship, and they're getting a scholarship to the finest university for track. And I'm like, Yeah, but it's a dude. And this was Twitter 1.0. So let's just say guys like you and I and probably everyone else in this room, we were definitely in the minority there. It was 95-5, 90-10, conservative to, raging libtard. And even then, though, I'd put it up, like, this is insane. And I'd read the comments, and it was, just people who were just waiting to comment on anything, to hate on me, whatever it is, and I feed off the hate. It's great. It's fine. But I remember reading the comments and being like, wow, this is a losing issue for them, because even the people who hated my guts were like, oh, I hate Don Jr. so much, but he's right. Next comment, oh, I can't believe I agree with Don Jr. on something. That's how ridiculous it was, like, before it became a thing. And then, the trans mafia, which was, the most beyond reproach organization in the history of the world. I've never seen a group of people that probably comprise like 0.02% of its society they were infallible, right? They could do no wrong. They were obviously right. And the Democrats fed into even against gay liberals who were like, wait a second, we fought for decades to be able to get, equality, and they don't want equality. They want equality plus. This is insane. So, I think it's asinine. I think it was a great issue for people across the board, for reasonable people who weren't sort of politically entrenched, for independence. And I love that even knowing this now, even years later, even when it's an abject fail, they literally can't help but continue to go all in on the issue. It's a 90-10 issue, and if Trump is in the 90, they just got to take 100% of the other 10 and back it 1,000%. So, I'm glad to see that they're still doing it. Because I think it helps us in the long run.
It's bad for the country, good for our politics.
But it is a disaster for the country. It's a disaster for our daughters. It's an absolute embarrassment. I mean, again, as a father of a girl athlete, to say that, like, hey, you're just going to have to deal with it because that guy's 8 inches taller than you and stronger.
Have you had to deal with that?
Not yet.
How would you?
I'd be vocal. I'd be.
And what's your advice for parents that have to deal? I mean, I think dads need to start rising up and saying, we're not going to put up with this stuff. I mean, what is this?
No, hey.
Because I know you. I don't think you would put up with this.
No, not even, like, and this will get me into trouble, but, like, you have to call it out. Enough of the nonsense. Like, there's no political capital in destroying your child's future to be woke, to be able to get the applause, from, that crowd who hates your guts anyway. And so, I think it's so fundamentally important that we all have to become unafraid to speak up on these kinds of issues. And when you do, you realize there's actually a lot of us. It's the vast majority. But again, for years, we've been put into these corners. There was a time where if you said these things, you'd be canceled. You'd be thrown off social media. You'd be thrown out of the PTA meeting. You couldn't do that. So we have to stand strong for this. I've gone through enough of the child athlete sports thing. I have 5 kids. I'll get in trouble as a dad again for saying this, which is like, there's nothing quite as painful as like a 3-year-old's like triple header in softball. Like, if you're going to put in years of that kind of time, and then your daughter or your kid becomes a great athlete, and you just say, well, I guess it was a good run. They're better than the other girls, but there's 3 dudes that just took their spot. I guess we're just going to take it. That's not going to work. That's the way society fails.
So in closing here, Don, because I know that, and thank you for being generous with your time. You've got a packed schedule. The question we get a lot from the audience is, Charlie, how do I deal with the hate? Picking up on something you said. You said it briefly. You said, the hate fuels me. I love the hate.
Yeah.
Because if you look at these amazing students, and do you notice, Don, we give the best tickets to our students?
They should.
Right? These are the warriors right here. And so when they say, Charlie, how do I deal with the hate at my high school? How do I deal with the hate at my college? You are uniquely positioned to be able to answer that because you've been hauled in front of Congress. You've been investigated. You've had a decade of hate. I think you have the 2nd most death threats in the country next to your father.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And what's your advice to the patriots of all ages that don't know how to deal with that kind of hate?
Listen, you get used to it, okay? So for me, it actually started less about just the hate. It was more about, the cancel culture. It was, we built hotels and buildings. We did that in a lot of cities. Most of them are liberal cities. We were, I got invited to every cool person party in New York City for decades. And then it was gone like that. And I was like, wow, like these people that I thought were friends for decades, they don't call anymore. Then when you won, they called it, oh, I love what you were doing. I was like, no, dude, I was reading your Facebook post. Like, you're just trying to have the best of both worlds. It does take time, but I realized it was actually better, even from a business standpoint, to be a leader for a large group. If it was 50% of the country, it's like, wow, there's still something there, right? I'd rather be thought of by them as someone who's willing to have that conviction to fight for these things, than be sort of agnostic to the general population. It was just another guy that was there. So it took a lot of time. I mean, it took a lot of, we lost hundreds of millions in business, not just on the sort of the lawfare side of things that we were fighting, but just people canceling as well. One person in a group of 100 doesn't like you, so we're just not going to go to your hotels. That was hard to get used to, but once you got used to it, you realized there's still hope. And what you're fighting for is so much more important in the grand scheme of things. Again, you don't have to do everything like I did. I sort of took the aggressive approach on everything. You can have these conversations respectfully. I love what you do, and we did this in 16 and 15.
We've been doing it for 10 years. Don and I, who thinks Don should come to a college campus with me this semester? Wouldn't that be great?
I think
by popular demand.
By popular demand. Listen, we were doing it before it was like a daily thing. When it was like, hey, once a month we went to Penn State. We went to one.
It was aggressive.
Up in Michigan State. We went up there. This is a 16 campaign, and it was me and Charlie and another friend of ours, Tommy. Yeah, and we literally were about to get on the stage, and the state police were there, and they showed up. The state police, like the Michigan State Police, showed up and were like, hey, man, we can't tell you not to do this, but like this is bad. And the university, of course, made sure that all the radicals could get in, even though we oversold to the groups that were people like us.
You guys know what we're talking about.
And that was fine. You've seen all of this. And they go, we can't stop you from doing it, but we also can't guarantee your safety. And we're putting out like a notice right now that like you should not do this. Like it's against, common sense to be going out there. And we basically looked at each other.
Let's go.
I literally said, like, I would rather get my ass kicked right here, right now, than capitulate to the woke mob. And we did. And it was actually amazing. We were backstage. We were about to go on. And, like, what was it? It was like the offensive line of the football team showed up. Like, it's like, we love you guys. We're just here. If anything goes wrong, don't you worry. Like, I mean, these guys were like our unhired, unannounced, like, security detail. I'm looking at this guy. I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'1", 195. And I was like looking at this guy. I was like, I don't want to meet that guy if he's on the other side. But like, we went out, and the energy in the room, there was a tension. And, our guys sort of hit these guys with facts and reality and just sort of shut them down. And so, what Charlie does when he goes there, he doesn't lose his cool. He keeps his temper. He talks about facts. And you realize their arguments fall apart so quickly because they don't actually have anything other than sort of the high-level soundbite that they're talking about. And so when you're able to reason with them, you see most of these people, they walk away, they're like, oh, I thought I was going to own this guy, and they're broken when they walk off the stage. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. So you don't have to do it perhaps the way we did it. And I'm even trying to alter some of that now because now, again, there's a broader coalition. We don't have to just be so forceful with it. You can do it with facts, logic, reason, and decency.
Don, I speak on behalf of all of our students. Thank you for all you do for our movement. You work your tail off. Donald Trump Jr., everybody.
Thank you, guys.
We, the American people, are not each other's enemies, but we have people who are manipulating us on the basis of race, age, gender, trying to divide us and make us into enemies. Even the face of evil itself cannot shake our resolve. We will keep fighting, we will keep praying, and by the grace of God, we will save our country. With this assurance from the Almighty, we will keep fighting, we will keep praying, and when God is with us, nobody can stand against us. Hello, everyone. I am absolutely delighted to be here. My wife, Candy, is here with me. You know, I have a plane to catch, so I'm going to cut things a little bit, but I'm a surgeon, so I know how to cut. Not a problem. You know, we've been engaged in a fight for a long time. Ever since man has been on this planet, we've been fighting, one against the other. We're fighting now. We have people trying to invade our country, change our laws, trying to convince our children that they're not boys or girls. You look at all the different battles that are going on, but we have a secret weapon. We were made in the image of God. That means we have a godlike brain. Think about it. The human brain, the most fantastic organ system in the universe. It remembers everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever heard, can process more than 2 million bits of information in 1 second. Your brain is the weapon. It is the home of common sense, which makes you think that a lot of people don't have one. But I want you to think back. How many people here remember something they had to eat today? Let's just see your hand. Okay, it's almost unanimous. Now, what did your brain have to do in order for you to respond almost instantaneously to that question? Well, first of all, the sound waves had to leave my lips, travel through the air, enter your external auditory meatus, travel down to the tympanic membrane, set up a vibratory force which traveled across the ossicles of the middle ear to the oval and round window, set up a vibratory force in the indolent, which mechanically distorted the microcilia, converting mechanical energy to electrical energy, which traveled across the cochlear nerve to the cochlear nucleus at the pontomedullary junction, from there to the superior olivary nucleus, ascending bilaterally up your brainstem to the lateral meniscus, to the inferior colliculus and the medial geniculate nuclei, across the thalamic radiation to the posterior temporal lobes, again the auditory processing. From there to the frontal lobes, coming down the tract of Victor Jura, retrieving the memory from the medial hippocampal structures in the mammary bodies, back to the frontal lobes to start the motor response at the Bet cell level, coming down the cortical spinal tract across the internal capsule into the cerebral peduncle, descending down to the cervical medullary decussation into the spinal gray matter, synapsing there, going out to the neuromuscular junction, stimulating the nerve and the muscle, so you could raise your hand. And that's the simplified version of what your brain had to do, and you barely even had to think about it. Now, can you imagine what our brains are capable of when we actually put our minds to something? You think about the early days of our country as we were accelerating from a ragtag bunch of militiamen to the pinnacle of the world. You think about how 90% of the life-changing inventions in the world came out of the United States of America. Why? Because we created an environment that encouraged entrepreneurship and innovation. That's who we are. And we let our Judeo-Christian foundation guide us and stayed away from the evil, because this is not about Republicans and Democrats. This is about good and evil. And we have to use those brains. We have to use that weapon that God gave us to fight Marxism. Marxism counts on ignorance. Have you seen some of those man on the street interviews where they ask people the simplest things, and they have no idea what you're talking about. That means the Marxists have infiltrated our schools, have infiltrated our learning institutions, and have dumbed down the population. You have to dumb down the population in order for them to believe all that crap that they tell them. And that's what we have to fight. That's part of the battle that we're in right now. Now, it hasn't always been that way in our country. If you really want to be impressed about our educational prowess, go back and look at a 6th grade exit exam from 150 to 200 years ago. What you were expected to know to graduate from the 6th grade, you'll be blown away. We have dumbed it down so significantly these days. And what we have to do now is draw the courage to fight against the Marxists, because they count on intimidation. You see what they're doing out in California, trying to scare our Border Patrol people, trying to scare our ICE people. Our ICE people are incredibly brave, and we need to really support them. But they would intimidate all of us. They would have all of us standing in the corner, afraid to say anything. And we must recognize that we have to be the bold ones. You know, fear is the thing that changes our lives. I remember as a youngster, I was afraid of dogs. I would never go out the door without first looking around and seeing if there was a dog there. And I'd be on my way to school, and I would almost be there, and then there'd be a dog. And I'd have to turn around, go all the way around the block, and come back from the other direction. And then there'd be another dog. And I'd be late for school, and the teachers were tired of my excuses. And then there was a man, I was 8 years old. He said, "Benny, if you don't act like you're afraid of the dog, they won't bother you." He said, no matter how big and ferocious they are, if you don't act like you're afraid of them, they won't bother you. I said, "Are you sure about this?" He said, "Absolutely." Well, there was a dog down the street named Rusty. Nobody liked to go down there. I said, "I'm going to go down there where Rusty is and act like I'm not afraid of him." And I went marching down there, all brave, and Rusty saw me, and he started licking his chops. And he came running after me, barking and snarling, and he ran right up to my leg. And I said, "This was a mistake." And he just sniffed it, and he went back and laid down on the porch. That was the last time Rusty ever came after me. He'd go after other people, but he knew I wasn't afraid of him. And he stopped bothering me. And that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to manifest that kind of bravery. That's one of the reasons that we started the American Cornerstone Institute. After the first Trump administration, my intention was to retire. I had failed retirement the first time and wound up in government. I said, I'm going to get it right this time. But after a few weeks of seeing the direction of the country, I realized I couldn't have any fun playing golf and cruising around the world while watching the country go down the tubes. So we formed the American Cornerstone Institute, focusing on those principles that made us into a great country. Our faith, our sense of liberty, our sense of community, and our love of life from the womb to the tomb. What a difference it makes. And the courage is the thing that really guided me throughout my whole medical career. I remember I was a resident at Johns Hopkins, and that was before they turned radical. And I was on call that night, All the attendings were away. We were having a national neurosurgical meeting, except for one that was left behind to take care of emergencies. And a young man was brought in. He had been beaten with a baseball bat. He was unconscious, his brain was swelling, he was going to die. The only thing that could save him was a radical operation in which you took out part of the frontal lobe and part of the temporal lobe to create space in the skull. I had seen that operation before, I'd never done one, but it didn't matter. I was a resident, I couldn't take him to the operating room by myself anyway. So I called for the attending, couldn't reach him. The nurses called for the attending, couldn't reach him. The paging operators called for him, couldn't reach him. The young man was dying. I had to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to risk my career and take him to the operating room and do an operation I'd never done by myself before and break all the rules? Or should I do the safe thing and just intubate him and put him in the ICU on high doses of steroid and let nature take its course? And what I did is something that really has guided my whole life, not just my medical career. I prayed and I asked God to give me the wisdom to know what to do. And at the end of that prayer, a peace came over me, and I realized exactly what I had to do. I had to take him to the operating room. And I went in there, and everything came back to me. It was clear as a bell. I performed the operation. It was successful, and today, that young man is a counselor for young people. But I never got into any trouble. In fact, I was praised for being courageous and doing the right thing. And we need to understand that courage is a part of who we are as a nation. Our history is that of courageous people. Think back to World War II. Think about all those young women who went into the munitions factories and were blown to bits. Did that stop the others? No, they made more airplanes, tanks, and mortars than anybody could imagine. Think about the young men, 15, 16, 17, who lied about their age so that they could fight for our country. Think about World War II as they were approaching the shores of Normandy on D-Day, being mowed down by machine gun fire, 100 dead bodies laying in the sand, 1,000 dead bodies. Were the others afraid? Yes, they were afraid. Did they turn back? No, they did not. They stepped over those dead bodies, and they overwhelmed the Axis forces, knowing in many cases that they would never see their loved ones or their homeland again. Why did they do that? Not for themselves. They did it for you. They did it for me. And what we must remember is that now it is our turn, because you cannot be the land of the free if you're not the home of the brave. Thank you.
On Capitol Hill, working with President Trump, we are going to deliver and save the greatest nation man has ever known. I've been there in every city in this country fighting hard to win this election. But the thing I know is that we're not going to win future elections without you. Transgenderism for teenagers is gotta stop. They say they're pro-choice, but not if you want a choice over what your kids are taught. America will take its place again as the shining city on the hill, as the leader of the world, as the #1 nation. We are gonna make America great again.
Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Byron Donald.
Student Action Summit. What is going on? You guys having a good time in Tampa, Florida? Everybody made sure they got a good night's sleep. I'm going to tell your parents, shame. You know, it's been a big 6 months. Big 6 months. Donald Trump has taken Washington by storm. The Republicans on Capitol Hill, we actually passed one big beautiful bill. The media doesn't really know what to think. Well, they never really knew what to think, let's just be honest. Not the brightest. And the Democrats have lost it. They've lost their minds. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised. You can hear by the chatters in the crowd, Brooklyn is always in the house. But my former home city has lost its mind. They are bringing in some guy named Mamdani. I mean, you can boo the man because the ideas are crazy. This guy wants to bring back government supermarkets. I say bring back because the government used to be in the food distribution business. For anybody who's old enough, they will tell you that if you were poor, like I was, in New York City, like I was, you would stand in lines to get cheese, peanut butter, and a bunch of other things. The government would give the stuff out. I've stood in those lines as a young kid. That's just the history. That's the truth. The government's so bad at it, they got out of that business and just gave people these things called food stamps. We now call them SNAP benefits. And that's what they gave people to go to the supermarket and buy it for themselves. Because at some point, somebody realized giving away food out of a government store is not what the government should be doing. How about we just help people at the bottom, give them purchasing power so they can go to the supermarket and get it for themselves? Novel concept. But this guy in New York wants to bring it back. He somehow thinks that he is smarter than all economics, than all of human history, and thinks he can actually deliver for the people of New York City. So as a guy who's running for governor in the great state of Florida, who, by the way, has been endorsed by Donald Trump to be the next governor of Florida, I have a responsibility to prepare my state for a lot more New Yorkers. When you come to this line in a speech, some people are happy, some people are sad. But we have a simple phrase we tell some of my former compatriots from the state of New York. If you come here to Florida to be free, to have no state income tax, to live in a state where we want you to innovate, to be successful, where government's not in your way, if you come here, do not vote for the same stupid people in Florida. Don't vote for the same stupid people. These are the people who thought it was cool to let an auto pen run the White House. Let's not do that. These are the people who thought it was okay to open up our borders and let tens of million people in the United States. These are the people, and this is one of their bright ideas that actually didn't get adopted. These are the people who thought it was okay for the Treasury Department to spy in every one of your bank accounts if you spent more than $800 in a calendar year. That's how crazy the Democrats have gotten. This stuff is sick, and it's nuts. These are the people who believe in a central bank digital currency. These are the people who believe that just by raising more taxes and spending more money, that somehow we will all be prosperous. But because of all of your hard work over the last 2 years, the American people said, no, no, we don't want that mess anymore. We want common sense. We want freedom. We want liberty. We want Donald Trump. So keep Mom Donnie in New York, but it ain't coming to Florida. Can I tell y'all a story? So last year in the presidential campaign trail, I was all over the country campaigning for President Trump. I was everywhere. It was wild. Honestly, it was a surreal time because, you know, I'm from inner city Brooklyn. I moved to Florida almost 30 years ago at the age of 17. I went to college in Tallahassee, FAMU in Florida State. Go Noles. Those are my guys right there. It's my guys. Although I'm running for governor, I love all of our universities. I love them all. We have the best university system in the entire country. It's a beautiful, beautiful system. So as a guy who came here with nothing, I never thought in my wildest dreams I would be a surrogate for a candidate for president of the United States. And because I'm from New York, I really never thought I would be a surrogate for Donald Trump. It's like a New York thing, you know? Something I never really thought was ever going to happen. But it's happening, and we're going all over the country. And my team would schedule events, and I would go into different arenas, you know, different symposiums, conferences, everywhere, talking about the president's agenda, what we were going to do to make America great again. And one of my colleagues, you know her, she was supposed to debate me a couple times. The president refers to her as Crockett. And so Crockett was supposed to debate me. And a funny thing happened. Her schedule would always change. I would be ready to go. My team would say, all right, sir, she's coming in, you're going to debate about this stuff. And it would change. And miraculously, she couldn't do it. I think I remember one time we were in Philadelphia, and we were supposed to do a debate for NPR. And all of a sudden, her schedule changed. And the reason why the schedule kept changing is because we understood very quickly that when you try to debate somebody who knows the facts, has the substance, brings common sense, and has a better argument, it's better for your schedule just to change. It might be better for you to just find something else to do. You see, we live in a country where it is your voice that is what truly matters. Not a lot of us who are on stage or even do TV interviews or on social media. It is your voice. And the way we expand that voice is that we need hardworking people from all walks of life who decide that they're going to give a little bit of time to this experiment called America. Just a little bit of time. That's what so many of you in this crowd and so many others who couldn't join us this weekend here in Tampa, this is the hard work you did last year. And look, I get it. As somebody who's knocked doors, trust me, I've knocked doors. I've knocked doors in the heat. I've knocked doors looking like this. Can you imagine knocking doors in a suit in July in Florida? He's shaking his head. He's like, nah, man. Nah, we're not doing it. But you got to look good, baby. You got to dress for the job. You got to show up at the door and be like, I'm here for you. And so I've knocked doors, done it. I've been on the phone, did it. I helped people find what list they were going to look through to call, been there. I know the hard work all of you have done. And that is how you extend that branch. That's how you reach the people of our country. It's door to door, call to call, person to person. We will find candidates, we will bring candidates who will uphold the principles of conservatism, the principles of liberty, who fight for America, who are always going to stand on the right side of history. But if that candidate doesn't have you, well, that's a tree that just falls in the forest with no one around. That tree doesn't make a sound. And so I will tell you, political activism is critical for the future. I get it, man. We're riding high. Listen, Donald Trump is on a win streak. We've never seen anything like this. We've never seen anything like this. I mean, it's just win after win after win. People are excited. Like, I'll be honest. When I said I'm in and I was going to back the president, I backed him because I knew he could step in day one and turn this country around. I knew it. In part because, yes, he had been there. And he knew all the stuff from Trump 1. And coming into Trump 2, it was going to be very, very different. And they are moving at light speed. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think it would be moving this fast. It shocked me. But that is because the president has surrounded himself with like-minded individuals who are committed to the agenda, and they're committed to you, the American people. But it didn't matter where we went. We were on a bus tour for 2 weeks in Pennsylvania. It didn't matter. If we were in Pennsylvania working hard, it had to be people in the crowd who were going to be there standing with us. To you young people at the Student Action Summit, let me tell you this. We might be winning today. Florida is red today. But the way we continue to win, the way we continue to keep Florida red, the way we keep Texas and Tennessee red, the way we bring Georgia back from the brink, don't know what's going on there for a little bit, we're going to bring it back. If we're ever going to have a shot of getting the job done consistently in Nevada and in Arizona and Wisconsin, is with you. You're talking to a guy who 15 years ago nobody ever heard of. I walked into a Tea Party meeting and they were like, who's this guy? But at least he wants to learn about the Constitution. I went to my first Republican Executive Committee 14 years ago and they were like, we heard about him from the Tea Party movement. Nice to meet you, son. Because, you know, I was younger then. Not smaller, same size, just younger. Right? And they were like, nice to meet you, sonny. Just a guy. But I was passionate. The passion you bring to our politics is what will keep us at the head of the table. The work you bring into this endeavor is what will keep the Democrats as the current laughingstock that they are. I mean, I don't know. Has anybody seen like the Democrat approval rating lately? It's like 20%. I mean, that's bad. It's good for us, sir. You're right. It's good for us. Bad for them. But when you have bad policies, what do you expect? When you have bad policies and run worse people, this is what you get. But it's in our hands. We can't give up now. And I know you'll probably be like, Byron, man, 24 was a lot. Do you know how hard we worked? Trust me, I know how hard you worked. But constitutionalism, representative democracy, does not function without an active and motivated people. I'm going to paraphrase, but an old saying goes like this. Those who do not pay attention to their politics will be ruled by their inferiors. And in America, for far too long, we have let our inferiors rule over this country. For far too long, we have let people who, quite frankly, are not smart make decisions as if they are the only people with intellect in the country. And a large reason why that was even able to occur is because we were just living our lives, raising kids, going to work, in Florida, heading to the beach. And she's ready to go back to the beach. She's like, I got to hit Clearwater. She's like, after this is over, I'm hitting Clearwater. That's what we're doing. But we can't live like that anymore. We have to be engaged at all times. In this campaign for governor, I'm talking about the future of our state. We are the best state in the country here in Florida. The best. If you come from another state, I get it. But trust me, we're the best state in the country. Just here to tell you the truth. If you're a Texas person, I love you. That's great. You're number 2. Anyway, Oklahoma's like 7. That's all right. I know some guys in Oklahoma. But let me tell you this. We've gotten here because of consistent leadership over decades. Governor DeSantis has done a tremendous job leading this state. A tremendous job. Before him, Rick Scott did a tremendous job leading this state. And so what we're talking about now is, now that in Florida the Democrats have been defeated because we've had great policy and great leadership in our state, now it's time to look to the future. Diversifying our economy, making sure that the best jobs that exist anywhere in America exist here, making Florida the financial capital of the world, making our roads more efficient and better, cleaning up our insurance markets, because we got to do that. You young people, you haven't gotten there yet, but I'm telling you, baby, whoo, insurance. Whoo, it's tough. But we have the luxury of doing that stuff in Florida, because if you go around this state like I have, our activists in Florida are committed to keeping Florida the free state of Florida. They're committed. I know so many of them from my time in the grassroots. They are locked in and not going anywhere. So young people, students, activists, I'm telling you the truth. There is no movement, there is no party that can stop young people active for the right principles, the principles of liberty and freedom for the future of America. I'm looking at you now in this room, and I'm a little scared of y'all. Because when you are mobile, agile, active, when you never quit, you never give up, don't mind the sweat, don't mind the rain. Yes, you'll be in a suit or in a button-up in 90-degree weather, but you got to go see Miss Jane, because Miss Jane's got to get to the polls, baby. We got to get you there to vote. Thank you, there. I appreciate you. We hiring her. She's too active. When that's the energy you bring to this movement of ours, we, and I say we, are unstoppable. God bless you, Turning Point. I love you guys. Stay in the fight. Stay with us.
As a parent, I should be able to pick and choose how the education system is going to serve my student best. We have to bring the free market into the education system. What values are going to be taught to them in the 7 or 8 hours a day that they are away from them in schools?
Wasteful programs that are doing nothing but promote divisiveness and all their DEI and CRT nonsense.
We want to protect home education.
Take the mantle, do what you need to do for your children, and don't apologize for it.
What's up, Turning Point? You like that, right? How Byron warmed it up for me this time? Listen, welcome to Tampa, Florida, my hometown. I grew up not too far from here, and really in not great circumstances, to be honest with you. But thank God, education gave me the opportunity to really climb my way out of poverty. And I'm so thankful for that. And it's part of the reason that my husband and I have been so passionate about promoting school choice and education freedom in both of our careers and in both of our public service. But I'm not here to talk to you about that today. Not so much, anyway. I want to talk to you about you, this generation that I'm looking at in this room. You know, we have children, we have 3 sons, and 2 of them are your age, and some of you might be our third son's age, 21, 17, and 14. And so we think a lot about this generation and the future that America holds for all of you. But I want you to know that you are not the future of this country. You are not the future of this country. You are the present. You are the reason why Donald J. Trump is president of the United States. You are the turning point generation. I like that, right? But you are also the generation that saw gender ideology permeate your schools and normalize in those public school classrooms. You were the ones who saw your teachers keep secrets from parents and allowed schools that allowed girls to have men invade their private spaces and their sports. You're the generation that was shut out of your schools while teachers' union leaders went on vacation and had private parties. You're the generation that missed out on activities because your parents wouldn't let you get the jab. Well, at least you were if you were my kids. But you are also the America First generation, right? You are the school choice generation, especially if you live here in Florida, where over 50% of our students in Florida are attending a school chosen by their parents, not where they are zoned. You are the skilled trades generation. In the big, beautiful bill that, thanks to Donald Trump, the Workforce Pell Grant, the first of its kind, is going to allow you all and your generation to not use Pell Grants on four-year universities, especially those woke ones, but to get into the skilled trades, to fill those manufacturing jobs that Donald J. Trump is bringing back to America. That is you. And I embrace the fact that you are also the AI generation and the VR generation and the XR generation and the crypto generation. We need to embrace, and thank goodness Donald J. Trump has embraced these technologies and has recognized that you are going to need them in order to make sure America leads the world in innovation and technology and business and crypto and blockchain going forward. You are that generation. You're also the generation that is going to benefit most from the golden age of America that Donald J. Trump is ushering in with his policies and his reforms. Thanks to him, you're going to see the end of DEI and CRT and ridiculous quotas. We're already seeing it happen. You know, I was an executive in finance before I left my career of 20 years to dedicate my life to public service. But I didn't need any quotas. I just needed an opportunity. I needed an opportunity to show what I could do as a woman in business. I didn't want anybody to look at my gender. I wanted them to look at my work. And you're going to see the end of those ridiculous quotas in business. You've seen the fake news defeated, but I think you're going to see them completely destroyed because you are the new media generation. You are the ones, you're the media now, right, as Donald Trump has said, and you are going to usher in not the information age that we talk about today, because of the internet, that's nothing compared to the information that you are going to have access to in your lifetime. And not just have access to information, but be able to disseminate